What's good? Um, just another day. Sadly, it's my last day off before I go back to work. What a short weekend, even though it's the longest weekend that I've had so far. But overall, we went today, went over, well, what I went over today was Luke 17 through 21, I'm pretty sure. And I took notes. Again, I'm trying to get used to this. And I'm also going to try waking up super early tomorrow, even though it's like 11 o'clock today. Mainly because, I keep putting this off until longer. And, if I start the day with the Lord, it's probably going to be better than anything else because I know that starting the day with a run sets the course for my day. It makes it a lot more better, right? But the things we went over, or yeah, things that we're going to go over specifically, um, is the coming of the kingdom that was mentioned in chapter 17 of Luke. And pretty much Jesus is saying, yeah, it's going to be unknown, but of course, the unknown will have its signs, right? Mentioning Noah and then also mentioning Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah and how that, you know, Noah probably more than likely was saying, yeah, guys, God told me there's going to be a flood, and nobody was probably listening to him and be like, nah, you're capping, right? And then all of a sudden a flood happened. And then Lot, I'm sure, probably as he was walking out of the city, was like, guys, we got to change our ways. Sodom is going to get struck down. And people were like, nah, you'd be fine, right? I think that's what it's pretty much saying is that's going to be very close to that, where maybe in a time like now, you know, God's coming back because he really is. And people are like, nah, we got a few hundred more years or something. It won't happen in my lifetime, this, that, and you never know, right? So, right. Keeping it going. Also going to go over the Pharisees and the tax collector in chapter 18. Um, Pretty much, I like this one, purely because it's very, it's one of those like, ha ha, he he moments, of what Jesus tells, right? And it's like pretty much this Pharisee and this tax collector. They're both going into the temple to pray to the Lord, right? And the Pharisee's like, Lord, thank you for not making me pretty much evil, right? Thank you for not making me a sinner to that extent, right? And then like. I mean, that's kind of, yeah, that even within that itself, that's kind of crazy, because we're all sinners. This Pharisee's definitely not perfect, especially based off of how he's talking, right? But then the tax collector goes in there is like, Lord, forgive me, I am a sinner, right? And pretty much it just goes to show that, hey, why have pride in your ability when you don't have pride in God, right? Because with God, that does God really think you're not a sinner or anything? I mean, like, yeah, good job on praying and whatnot, and overall holding fast and everything, but you're still human, buddy. You ain't God, bro. So like, lock in, right? But yeah, and then Jesus healing the blind beggar. As Jesus is going through Jericho, he's going through Jericho and whatnot, and this blind guy on the street's like, hey, everybody's passing by. Why? And then somebody says, because Jesus is Nazareth, right? He's like, Jesus, son of David, help me. People were telling him to shut up and everything. He's like, help me. And Jesus hears him, right? And it really does go to show that, Jesus doesn't care about, well, I mean, he cares about the many, right? But the few, he will always rejoice in, right? The few that are able to rejoice their faith in him and everything, it just, he goes for them, right? So just because you think you're lesser than and you think that Jesus won't love you and everything does not mean that Jesus won't love you. If anything, it means Jesus will love on you more, right? And Jesus is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. So it's literally, he's omnipotent, right? So he's everywhere at all the times. He knows everything. I promise you. Ain't nothing new under the sun for this man, right? So put your faith in him, right? And then the last thing I should have is the parable of the wicked tenants, right? Pretty much it's a story of I'm pretty sure it's a vineyard. Can be a show. Pretty sure it's a vineyard. Yep, a man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants and went into another country for a long while, right? So he pretty much did that and everything, and he was trying to go get some of the stuff from some of the fruit from the tenants, right? And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to send this one guy, right?" Then it sends him, and then they beat him up, and then send him back with nothing, right? Second guy, same thing. Third guy, same thing. And then the pretty much the housekeeper, or not the housekeeper, but what's it called? The ruler is like, yeah, actually, I'm going to send my son because they'll definitely have to listen to them, right? Or to him, right? And he sends his son, and they were like, oh, he's the heir. We're going to kill him, right? And pretty much ends up murdering him and everything. And then the ruler gets mad and pretty much ends up killing them, right? And this just goes to show pretty much. I think it's just borderline the parable of Jesus, or not be Jesus, but like the Bible, right? And overall, how like literally he sends prophets back to back to back. You got Moses, and then you got Elijah and Elisha, and then it all leads to Jesus, right? And then he ends up sending Jesus, and then guess what? They end up killing him anyway. And I'm saying they as, the Jews, right? But overall, it's like, yeah, then he's like, I'm going to give the vineyard to somebody else, right? Which is the Gentiles, right? And that doesn't mean that Jews can't be accepted as well, right? But it's also saying that God's opening up his hand to everybody to be in the promised land, right? It started with Abraham. Now the Jews are everybody pretty much. Well, not literally, but like we're all Gentiles, right? So at least that's how I interpreted it. But that's about it for today. I mean, there was a few other things that I highlighted, but I just wanted to go over the main hitting points, not to really make it shorter, but like to make it more bite size. If you want to, which you should, maybe not a want. I promise you, God wants you to read. Um, Go read a few chapters yourself if you want to. Come read um, chapter 17 through 21 like I did, right? But anyway, thank you and peace.